Nae, welcome on the podcast. It's wonderful to have you here.
Thank you very much, Dan. It's a pleasure to be here.
So you are, I think, a remarkable and I think a very inspiring figure to have here. Very unique as a trainer to be talking to you. It's a real pleasure. Let me just dive straight in. How did you get into debate education? What inspired you about this tool?
Ooh, um, the first time I saw debate, I was in ninth grade, and honestly, I was trying to skip a class. Not very proud of this one. It was French class, and I was dead scared that I hadn't done my homework, and I was afraid that my teacher would notice. So I was trying to find any excuse to not go to class. And there was this debate demo happening, and I said, "I'll take it. I don't care what it is." Now during ninth grade we had phones and we had Snake, and we would play a lot of Snake during the boring events on the phones. And I swear not one of the 100 observers of the demo debate decided to play Snake on their phone. Not at all. It was so fun, it was so captivating, and I thought, wow, that's superpower. I want to do that. So I decided I would get into debate. I got into debate, and then it kind of stuck with me.
What I like about this story is you say that you were truly enthralled and captivating by debate. But if you talk to lots of people who are inside of debating, they sometimes may have the feeling, oh, but debating is sort of like speed essay writing for nerds. It doesn't sound like the most enthralling activity to look for a ninth grade student. So what did they do that made you so excited about it then?
Well, they had a really, really boring topic. It was about school uniforms, and like when you heard the topic, you knew you didn't really care about that much. But the way they spoke, that was really, really captivating. Each of them had a different style, and each of their parts of speech, I didn't know they were called arguments back then, but each of their arguments kind of fit in like a puzzle. And at the end of the whole debate, you'd have the whole picture and you'd see the whole mechanism, the whole system, and you'd go like, whoa, I didn't think about it that way. I had so many Eureka moments during their speeches. It was intellectual catharsis. That's what took me there. That's what made me decide I need to learn how to do this. Also, um, I am quite short, and I was quite short back then as well. And I had this inferiority complex that my ideas don't matter that much because I'm small. And I thought, whoa, if I learn how to use debate, then my ideas would matter. My I would be able to be heard. So I wanted to do that. For me, it was absolutely perfect.
So I guess most people who went into that auditorium then said, I want to become a debater myself. But you've made the transition. Not only have you learned to be a debater yourself, you've said, I want to give that superpower to other people as well. Has your opinion on debate education shifted since then? Do you now believe it to be something different? And is there something unique about debate education? Where does that differ from just public speaking, which could enthrall you, or just getting logic classes where you could see those arguments fit together the way you speak about?
Oh, that's a complex question. So I'll try to answer it in bits. First of all, yes, my opinion on debate education has changed throughout the years. At first, I thought I I decided to become a debate trainer. I decided to give back to the community because of the abilities that the community had given me. I thought it gave me structured speech and critical thought and a great way with words. And I thought, oh, okay, because it's given me so much, I need to give back. It's only fair that I give back. But over the years, I realized that's not why I decided to become a teacher of debate. It's because they gave me family. They gave me community. I was weird, and yet they accepted me and accepted my weird ideas, and I found other weird ideas, and everyone's weird ideas were spoken about. That's really, really cool. That was very important for me in high school, and I think that's why I decided to be part of the debate movement. I wanted to be a part of the solution. I wanted to give access to this community for other people as well. So that's the first part. That's how my idea about debate education changed throughout the years. But debate is different than public speaking, and it's different from logic classes. Public speaking makes you a word maven. You get to have your way with words, and when you speak, it's like honey coming out of your mouth. It's about presentation, but I feel it's a solo, a single player game. When you talk about logic, then logic is a more mathematical type of concept. You become a thoughtsmith. You are able to realize what is right and what is correct and incorrect, what is valid and not valid through logic. But again, this is something that you do for yourself. Debate manages to put things into context. Debate is the craft of conversation. You are given insight onto the process of persuasion. And not only do you have your way with words and you understand thought processes behind them, but now you have a partner in discussion, right? And you understand how you need to interact with your partner to persuade or to come to common agreement. So debate is different. It's not a single player game. Debate is, although highly competitive, truly cooperative.
That is, I think, wonderful. And one thing that I think is also very cool about this is so you of course don't just have debate as an interest, right? You like playing board games collaboratively. You've done dancing with a partner for many, many years, and I have a feeling that you're bringing in also those skill sets into your particular unique way of, say, performing debate around the class. So, how do you get inspired day to day to think about debate education? How does your conception of debate education differ from those around you?
For me, debate education has changed from elite competitiveness, be the very best with your arguments and with your words, to solving a real world problem that I myself and many others have. That is the attitude towards verbal conflict. I believe that a lot of people are scared of verbal conflict or see it as taboo. And I would much rather we celebrate diversity in ideas and have the courage to talk about our diverse ideas. But when it comes to religion or politics or other ideas that are high stake ideas, the polite ones would just step back of the conversation, whereas the less polite ones would fight in the conversation. And you really wouldn't get anywhere with this. Debate education for me is changing, not just giving a different skill set to people, but changing the mindset of people, changing the attitude of people towards verbal conflict. From verbal conflict to somebody needs to win this conversation to cooperation in conversation. We explore together and find a mm, a moment of truth, right? Not the full truth, not the objective truth, but the best moment of truth we can at the very moment.
Yes. I think this just highlights the unique a way to think about debate. Thank you. So we met for the first time when we were setting up a trainer program to help inspire with debate education. I think before that I met you and before I met Sarah and Tore from the Deutsche Debattiergesellschaft and Debate Consult, who we worked all with together. If you had asked me to run a trainer, I would have thought what I need to teach you is probably the 7 most relevant skills for debating and give you a lesson plan to work on that. So we teach you a day for argumentation, a day for speech making, etc. But that trainer plan really changed my vision on how to make sure you become a good trainer, because we didn't really talk about what is the best lesson for an argumentation. Rather, we spent time thinking about what attitudes and capacities do you need to do to become a trainer? How do you think about working with groups? How do you ensure people meet learning goals? How do you support and coach individuals? So much more on the level of pedagogy. And I was thinking, you bring a large amount of knowledge and you know a lot about learning theory, and you bring that to debate education specifically. So how, according to you, can we best make someone learn how to debate?
Hmm, that's that's an amazing question. I think the cheating answer is, well, it depends on the person, it depends on the moment, and it depends what they want to actually learn when they say debate. But usually, I believe it is contextual. So you should know who that person is, what they can do, what motivates them, and what they need at the very moment. For me, learning is a very natural and organic thing. Very little things can stop learning. School is indeed one of them, but except for school, very little things can really, really put a stop to our natural drive to learn. We're curious, like as human beings. But we need different things. Sometimes we need direction and technique and input and theory because we're curious about that. Sometimes we're down and we don't have energy and we need support, emotional support or social support or stories of failure and success. If you look at where that person is, where your learner is at the very moment, if you always strive to provide a safe environment for them where they do not feel ashamed or threatened, and it's very easy to make people feel ashamed when it comes to learning, and if you make sure that your learner is motivated and rested or energetic, then I think that is the recipe for learning anything, not just debate. And I'm well aware that it is not easy to make sure your learner is motivated and rested, but at least you can check if your learner is rested or motivated. And if they're not, ask and see if you can provide something that they might need. Learning will happen naturally.
I think that is a fascinating answer, especially because I think it runs a little bit to the counter of what many people who teach debate or who've been debaters themselves think of, because they just think about all the theories about debating that they've learned, about the argument models, the rules for the debate format. And you're saying that's secondary. Actually, what's more important is that you create the boundary conditions that are above and beyond those models. And if you think about those very hard, it doesn't really matter that much what you do with those models. People will learn about it anyways. That I think is a very wonderful answer. Are there any particular things you found during your course of teaching debate that you see help very often to get these students motivated? Are there particular elements to debate that encourage these kids to be motivated in their learning process?
Yes, whenever somebody is stuck with something, it could be sexy argumentation or they managing to speak for 8 minutes or just making sure they don't have verbal disfluencies, in their speech. Sometimes they get stuck and they feel like they do not progress. That is a great, great eater of motivation. And when they get stuck, you help them in the way that they need to, either with technique by helping them, giving them the proper technique or tool to get de-stuck, or with support. You can do it. Here's my story of how I was stuck once. It will be painful, but it will pass. In 1 month, you're not going to be here. Look in the past, 3 months ago, you were way, way, way back. This is a concept taken from situational leadership. And I think taking concepts from leadership courses, from parenting courses, and from therapy and coaching and implementing them into your pedagogy will just make you a better teacher.
I think once again this is also fascinating, and it really implores us all, if we start becoming a debate trainer, to move away from just believing that if you know everything about debate then you are becoming a great teacher, and to look at actually teaching resources. So I think that's an incredibly valuable answer. And you of course got the chance to formalize in a way these concepts of knowledge about teaching, because you used to work as the director of training at Ardor, which is the umbrella debate organization in Romania and one of the largest debate education organizations in the entirety of continental Europe. So what were some valuable moments for you at the time when you worked at Ardor that you're proud of?
Um, there are quite many. My time with Ardor was absolutely sublime. But I guess one of the things that I'm very, very proud of is that we managed to create a standard of training. No, I'm mistaken. We managed to co create a standard of training for all of the trainers in Romania, for 200 trainers. We managed to get to most of them and ask them, hey, what does a good trainer do? What's an ideal training like? And we asked all of them. We had huge rounds of debates with them, and having a debate with a normal person, that's okay. Having a debate with a debater, difficult. Having a debate with a debate trainer, ooh la la, right? And we decided on 12 good practices, and everyone said, yeah, you know what, that's a good idea. And everyone decided on training plans. And of course, now when you ask somebody, hey, should you have a training plan when you go to this extracurricular activity, when you meet up with your 5 kids to teach them some debate? Now, obviously, the answer is yes. Why wouldn't you? But when I started debate, we didn't even know what a training plan is. We had students teaching us, and the students would come and it'd be like, what are you kids feeling like today? You want to go for some argumentation, some how economy works? You want to have a debate about Batman? And we'd be like, debate about Batman, yay! Okay, and we have a debate about Batman. And that's it. There was no full-fledged curricula, not for me anyways, and no proper training plan. And when I became a debater at first, I didn't have training plans. I had training ideas and training titles, very nice training titles, but no training plans. And now most of the people have them. And this has improved quality of training in Romania so much. And that means that the learners, the debaters, they're getting better quality training. They're becoming better debaters, not just ability wise, but also soul wise. We're shifting that competition focus towards cooperation. This is really cool. This this is something I'm proud of. We co-created a standard of training.
That is perfect. And as you point out, some of the shifts you've done is not only creating a far more structured process. Some of the shift is to move from competitiveness towards making sure that people collaborate far more in the debate education as a whole. And how do you maintain this kind of vibrant atmosphere? Do you check in with the students, see if they improve in a certain way? Because I imagine that one of the things that make it incredibly alluring to use competitive standards is that you can then check year on year end, are the debaters at my school finally reaching elimination rounds? Are there speaker points going up? Is it then still a useful benchmark, or what other benchmarks do you use to check whether the training plans have the intended effect?
Ooh, that's a great question. And Dan, your sneaky measurement questions in training are always really difficult. Yes, measuring progress is not an easy task, especially when it comes to abilities, more so when it comes to a competence. But there are some indicators that we can look for. And although, yes, we can always look at, are my debaters breaking at competitions, we tend to suggest that we not look at this. Back in the day, what we looked at was how many of my debaters are finishing the school year in the debate club, and how many of my debaters are competing at debate competitions. So if we had all the data, we would have wanted to check out, is everyone getting a fair share at competitions? Is it just the rich kids who are going to competitions? Is it the same 50 children that are going to competitions? Is it the same 10 that are winning competitions over and over and over again? We decided we would set aside these standards and try to implement everyone managing to reach competition and people trying to improve, just improve. One trick that we used, well, not a trick, a shift in focus, was that we stopped exclusively celebrating competition breaks and competition wins. And I remember asking trainers at TOTs, at trainings of trainers, what do you celebrate in your clubs? And they're like, what do you mean what we celebrate? Yeah, what do you celebrate? They're like, winning. Yes. If you only celebrate winning, people will only care about winning and competitiveness will thrive. So we tried to shift the focus from celebrating only winning to also celebrating volunteering, participating, growing, trying to help others, teaching, all of these things. And the shift is happening slowly but surely. And you can see it online. You can see it on Facebook threads, on Doom threads. You can see it that people don't care about winning that much, or at least the people that I see in my Facebook bubble don't care about winning as much as they did when I was a competitive debater. And that's cool.
Wonderful. I remember when I started out the university debate, there was a club that decided to try and promote breaking by offering to buy a cake every time a team from that club broke. In the end, they managed to get one good team who then ended up reaching the elimination rounds of nearly every tournament. So every week they had cake, but it's always because of the same team. And it definitely didn't feel like that club could celebrate the success of the entire club, but rather just there were two individuals that were soaking up all the attention. So I feel your effort is a lot more inclusive there. Is there any particular experience you had, any particular anecdote that you can offer where you truly feel that this type of approach has made the debaters at Ardor feel like they are improving?
Well, I can give a counterexample for this. And I can say that the first time I went to the demo debate, people were so excited that most of them really did sign up. And there are 100 students at our first training, the one at my first training. And honestly, I have huge respect for the trainers then and there. This is everything they knew and they gave us their best. But it was a 12-hour training in 2 days, 6 hours per day. Karl Popper theory, just the theory, no practice whatsoever. For me, it was the best thing ever. After these 12 hours of training, there were 15 out of the 100 initial participants left. Some came back later on, but after that, in my region, I was the only one left because you see, I had a team. It was a really good team, and our trainers were super excited about my team or our team because we would win competitions. So our trainers would train us almost exclusively. Sometimes we would even train against our trainers. We'd debate against our trainers. We'd get all of the focus. And we won competitions and got to the Europeans and got to the World Championship. But then, year by year, we were alone, and then my colleagues quit debate, and I was there. And out of all of the people in Romania that started out in my generation, right now, only one of them is still practicing debate in Ardor, Radu Țigănaș, which is an amazing trainer and a great friend, but he's the only one still there. This is not okay. Whereas when we tried to adopt a strategy of getting people excited about teaching, out of 18 debaters in 12th grade, we got 14 of them to decide they want to give back to the community and become trainers. Although in their 12th grade, they barely went to a competition. It was just about how cool it is to give back everything you've received. It was just about that. And they decided to become trainers themselves, and some of them are still activating right now. One of them, Victor, is actually a CA at the national debate competition that's happening today.
That's wonderful. And I think not just a counter example, you also give me the example the other way. So you really create a circle to the story. However, your story is not come to a close, right? So unless, you don't work at Ardor anymore, but you now started your own training company, Argument Antrenant.
Yes.
And this company, of course, I imagine when you set up a company, that's a daring setup because you're always starting something new. So you must have an incredibly strong motivation towards it. the motivation you tell me you have in debating is this feeling of empowerment, that you finally are heard. Is that same motivation something that drives you now to move into this adult education, or is there something new that has taken its place?
It is different. It's about a problem that I have and I'm trying to solve for myself and for the world around me. It's the thing with the idea, with the attitude towards verbal conflict. I want to celebrate diversity of ideas, and I want to be able to go to a Christmas dinner and not have the full family decide to never meet again, only to meet back at Easter, right? So I want this to stop because it's driving me crazy, and I'm sure it's not just me that is being driven crazy by this. I want people to be able to have contradicting conversations in a civilized, constructive way, and I want them to not be draining, but empowering, refreshing. I want to go out of a conversation, I want to leave a partner that I disagree with feeling enriched, not drained, because I lost or I won, but it was a muddy, argumentative fight. So this is what's driving me now. I want to teach people how to switch up their attitude towards argument, towards constructive conversation.
So I'm very curious then how the company sets these kind of things up. So obviously when we spoke about debate education in the high school or formal educational context just now, we talked about setting up clubs essentially, making sure people stay within the game and motivate them to self-develop in that way. But I imagine that lots of adult education works slightly differently, that you're asked for far more of a time-bound assignment. So in what way does this goal translate into your day-to-day practice? What kind of trainings do you give, and what do clients want from you?
Well, truth be told, most of the times clients cannot perfectly verbalize what they want because, alas, the educational system has not taught them how to dig in themselves and ask themselves, what do I want? What do I need? But what they are happy with is short practices. So I offer them 30 minutes of argumentative workouts. Just like you would go to the gym to train your body every week, mens sana in corpore sano, you also need to train your mind 30 minutes per week, or maybe it's 60 minutes per week for you. We just meet up, we have an argument together. I have them pick one of three topics, and then we start a conversation in disagreement. Post conversation, I have a little bit of debrief, and this is really, really important. I ask them how they felt because my goal is for them to feel more and more refreshed after a contradicting conversation. I want it to be constructive. I want them to get eager about these things. And then I offer them a bit of feedback, what they can do better, not to win the conversation, but to have better conversations. Conversations that their partners will also appreciate. Once you manage to shift from my opponent to my partner, things become less of a game that you can win or lose, more of play. And very rarely do you find children not enjoying play, right? Adults like play as well. It's games that can frustrate us because with games, you can always lose. Play, there's no way to lose it.
I think this is very interesting because, in a sense, what you're talking here is not necessarily an idea of I sell you how you can have a better sales presentation at your next meeting. Rather, as you point out, it's the concept of a gym for your mind, which leads to me to say that is far more, on the one hand, long term. Like I work out at the gym every week, and I can imagine you'd work out for gym for argument training every week as well. So I want to keep coming back in that sense. And
Mhm.
also, it seems like it's a valuable skill, but you don't say the skill is only useful in a small subset of clearly defined cases, but it's useful throughout your professional but also your private life, also at that Christmas dinner party. And do you recognize therefore that that is something different, that you get a different clientele than if you were to say announce this as a training that would increase sales or would increase other forms of KPIs in businesses? Or do you get the feeling there are people who come to you wanting to get those things out, and they get those things out as well, but meanwhile you push them into debate gym because that's what they actually want?
Actually, both of these types of clients come to me, and the type of clients that decides they want to grow themselves, I never have an issue with whatsoever, because they come understanding that there is room to grow. They have an open mind and an open heart to experiment and try out things. And yes, then we go weekly workouts. Then we have the clients that have a very specific goal in mind. And then I give them something that is more specific. I create a learning plan for them, and they say, look, I need to be able to deliver this presentation, and I need to be able to convince these people of this. I tell them, I cannot guarantee that you will be able to convince anyone of anything, but I can help you maximize your chances. And then we work proper training with theory, with practice, with simulation, with workshop, and I create a learning program designed for their needs. But whereas the workshops are 30-minute workshops that leave you refreshed, you do them once or twice per week. These things, the learning journeys, as I call them, they are 1 hour and a half to 2 hours. You will do them twice per week, maybe more, and you don't get to be refreshed at the end. You're going to work and it's going to be tiring, but at the end of the full program, you will have grown tremendously in your specific niche.
So this is then also, I think, a approach to your company that is, like, as you point out, deeply personalized and tailored to someone's needs. It's a high amount of investment that both you and the client ask of each other, a large amount of trust you build in. So I'm just wondering, because this is a relatively young company, how did you manage to get the foot through the door? How did you manage to start out and convince people that what they need is your approach towards debating, argumentation, and public speaking?
I gave it for free. Well, I am not a drug seller, but I did give this for free, and then people were like, "Oh my God, this is so great! Can we have some more?" I was like, "Yeah, here's how much it costs." And then word spread out. Of course, it also helped that I had some clients contacting me after they worked with me 2 years or 3 years or 4 years ago at a random training, and they just remembered me, and they were like, "Hey, Nae, I wanted to do some training with you. Are you still in the business?" I was like, "Yes, let's do this." And online, I tried to tell my story online, and people saw it, and then they rang me up. That's basically what happened.
That's a very insightful lesson. Now, I imagine that because it's quite an intensive course, I could see you work with maybe 20, 40 clients, but eventually do you see yourself as leading a company of coaches and trainers? Do you already have other colleagues that are employed? Where do you see Argument Antrenant? What does it look like in 5 years?
I would very, very much like to have collaborators. I would like to be able to have many trainers from the world of debate offering argumentative workouts to as many people as possible. That's how you have significant mind shifts in society. So, yes, I would definitely see this. I would definitely hope for this. When I started out Argument Antrenant, that's actually how the idea came to me. We were at the European Debate Trainer Conference back in the old days when live conferences were a thing. And somebody mentioned something about how you go to the gym. Why not also have a gym for your argumentative abilities? And I was like, oh, that's a good idea. I want to do that. And then it hit me, I would want to do that because I am one of the very few people who managed to make a living, a modest living, a decent living, not a great living, out of doing the thing I love, debate. And I want to offer that possibility to many more other trainers. So I want to be able to employ other debate trainers, and I want them to make money out of doing this hobby of theirs at the moment. Throughout my life, a lot of people have told me, why don't you get a job? Debating is cute, or debating is annoying, but it's not a real thing. There's no debater job, why don't you become a lawyer or something? I kept believing you can A, change the world, and change the world in a meaningful enough way that people will give you money for it. B, and it's true, you can. And I just want to give this opportunity to other trainers as well.
And do you also feel, because obviously you're not located in Bucharest, and I imagine a large amount of your network is in Romania. At the same time, you got this idea at a conference in the Netherlands. You spent some time in Germany. Do you feel that you could grow European-wide, that this is something where you could employ trainers from all kinds of EU countries, and that it would need to be a international affair? Do you already work internationally?
Most definitely, I feel it could grow. It happens that I am working with some international clients through Sarah, through Debate Consult, which allowed me to somehow sell some of my arguments through their services and through their site. So I have a bit of an international clientele, just a bit, and it works perfectly. Even with people in Romania, I sometimes work in English with them because they need it. They have to persuade people in English. So it's just way better if they do it from the get go like this. Yes, and because of the pandemic, there is no limit to online work. It's easier now. If before people were a bit skeptical, they were like, you can't have a proper training without really feeling the connection with the trainer. Now everything is online. So nothing is impossible. I've worked with people from the States. I've worked with people from Hungary and from Germany. Definitely hoping to get international as well.
What I find very interesting, certainly about the last part of that answer, is I think that all of us were sort of forced to move online back in March, April due to Corona. So we've all seen it as sort of like an obstacle that we had to overcome, but you express it as sort of an opportunity that's now opened up. And do you feel indeed that you've been able to actually, in a sense, expand or invigorate your business thanks to the fact you've moved to an online environment during this pandemic? Or do you still believe that we could see it in terms of an obstacle?
For me specifically, I don't know for other people, but for me specifically, this was in no way an obstacle. This was a augmentation of my business. I did not have a business at the beginning of the year. In October, I quit my job at Ardor. In November, I left to Germany for a mentorship program through Erasmus for young entrepreneurs. And I worked with Sarah at Debate Consult, and it was absolutely sublime. Um, and the plan was when I go back to the country in May, I start my business. The pandemic happened, and I decided I'd start the business in February or March. I can't really remember. And I managed to start my business in February or March because I could do it online. I thought, oh, okay, so I have to be in Romania. I have to be in Bucharest specifically. I even budgeted how much time I'd be spending going to cafes or to training venues. So I actually get to work with people. All of this has disappeared. I have more time to do the meaningful things. There was a study at one point. Don't really remember how old it is. I think 2016, that said that in most corporations, most employees, 36% of the time, they do tasks that they're not supposed to do. They do administrative tasks, like walking from one place to another, copying, calling somebody to find out whatever type of information they need, things that they're theoretically not paid for. the more you manage to cut these things, walking from point A to point B, and the more you manage to focus on the things that you wanted to do, the happier you will be, the more efficient you will be. It's just, for me, it's just better.
And I could imagine at the same time that, so one of the things I've definitely missed since moving online is that there are these chats that you have with your colleagues perhaps that are a bit more casual and that break through the everyday life. Now, I'm fortunate to be staying here together with my girlfriend in this house, although I think that we definitely have grown to know each other to ever in and out in this location. But what I imagine, of course, is that if you run a company that is built around the idea of having interesting and challenging conversations with your clients about topics you both find enjoyable. In that sense, it's also a great social opportunity. And that in this sense, I would imagine a large amount of people would come to your organization as well because they get broken out of their some slightly more confined space that they've included in their pandemic.
Actually, this is perfectly true. I have a lot of clients who tell me, I don't care what we're going to be talking about, because whenever we have an exercise, I find out something new about the world. And I'm like, yeah, yes, definitely. It's, I am definitely blessed. I am able to do things that I love and that are interesting and meaningful, and I get to live my life like this. Yeah, this is a good place to be in. If there was no pandemic, it would be absolutely perfect. If I could, come visit you or go just for a trip to Germany or Ireland, that'd be absolutely great. But right now, I'm in a good place. I'm not complaining.
I think at its core, what I'm learning from you is that if you're able to be passionate about something and follow that passion, that is truly an exciting opportunity to have. So I hope that this has been a very inspiring conversation for many people listening in. So if there are now young debaters who say, actually, this sounds great, this model at Ardor where I am promoted to become a debate trainer when I want to become a trainer, and I could even maybe at one point join Argument Antrenant and become a trainer there. What should they start? If a debater wants to become a trainer, where should they look first?
They should look around. When I was in 10th or 11th grade, I saw a trainer that was the most amazing trainer in the world at that moment. His name was Alfred Tuna Schneider. And I thought he was perfect. He looked like Santa Claus, and he acted like Santa Claus as well. He was so kind and he explained things so thoroughly, and everyone loved him. And I just went to him. I know I did not go to him. I wouldn't have. I was way too scared. I wrote him an email and I said, "This is my formal promise to you. You have no idea who I am, but that's fine. I will become a debate trainer like you. Do you by any chance have any hints for me what to do? So I suggest you do this." The man came back to me and said, "Of course I know who you are, but first of all, have these 7 books and start reading them." And I did not read all of the 7 books. Honestly, I think I started reading one of them or two of them, maybe at the moment. But the fact that this person was like, "Yeah, sure, you become a debate trainer, do it." That sparked and gave me all the motivation I needed to naturally learn by myself. So go find somebody who's a model, who's a great trainer, who's a great teacher, and go ask for some help. Ask, and maybe you will be given.
And do you perhaps also remember the title of that book or other books that you've read that have also given you the attitude or skills that you feel help you become a trainer?
Oh la la. Hmm. Let me think about it for a second. One of the really cool books that have changed my way of thinking about argumentation is called Coalescent Argumentation. I don't remember the author, but it talks about how you can have argumentation in a constructive environment by offering your partner the tools necessary to make reasoning happening, as opposed to by bombarding them with information and argument in order to forcibly, aggressively persuade them. This has changed my view from destructive argumentation, when you force somebody into a position where if they do not agree with you, they will feel ashamed or stupid or contradict themselves. And constructive argumentation, where at the end of a conversation, the person has the room to change their mind. Most of the times, whenever we are in a high stakes environment, the problem is the reason why people don't really change their minds is they can't afford to socially. They cannot afford to be seen as changing their minds, because that would mean losing the arguments. That means they're wrong. And obviously, people want to be right, but they also want to have been right and be right at the moment. They don't want to be right in the future after they change their mind. So coalescent argumentation gave me this idea about how to offer the safe space necessary and the tools in a conversation to allow people to change their minds in a constructive and peaceful way. And yes, that means longer conversations. And yes, it means significantly more effort from your side. But I have decided I want to be a teacher, a nourisher. This is my mission, and I will wear it with pride.
That is wonderful. That is Coalescent Argumentation by Michael A. Gilbert, and we're going to put that one into the show notes as well. And I think that for me has also been a very insightful journey for myself as well. I think only lately did I realize that the format of debating obviously means that the explorative elements of argument, as you point out, come to bear because we have the comfort of saying this may not be my own opinion, and therefore you're able to reason through things for both sides in a relatively safe space because you're not judged upon your opinion per se. But that the skill set that we develop then within debating, that you shouldn't directly apply it to everyday conversation, because using the same way to argue in a conversation with, say, the uncle that holds different viewpoints as you is absolutely catastrophically destructive, because you know then no longer have the safety that the format applies. And I've similarly learned from reading up on things like nonviolent communication
Yeah,
and thinking
perfect.
about how this works. This is a wonderful suggestion. If people are interested in having more of these conversations with you, perhaps for a small fee, where could they find out more information about you and your organization?
Um, LinkedIn, Facebook, or a site. Yes, argumentantrenament.com, I think. I'll come back to you with that.
Fantastic. Well, again, put that in show notes. Thank you very much. You've at least refreshed my mind through this conversation. Nae Șovăială, the founder of Argument Antrenant, former director of debate at Ardor, and a wonderful trainer that has really changed my way, at the very least, about thinking how you use debate education to make people better humans. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dan. It was a pleasure.